Metal screamed as the car spun sideways, glass exploding into the rain-soaked night. Daniel Mwansa felt the impact before he heard it. His chest crushed forward, breath ripped from his lungs, darkness slamming into him like a door kicked shut. Pain flared, sharp and total, then vanished. Don't black out. Don't. Silence. Then sound returned in fragments. Sirens. Voices. Someone shouting his name. Someone else saying, "We're losing him." Daniel tried to open his eyes. Nothing happened. He tried to scream. Nothing. But he could hear. If you're watching this story right now, don't forget to subscribe and like. Because what happened next changed everything Daniel believed about love, loyalty, and survival. Machines hummed steadily. A rhythm. Beep, beep, beep. Each sound drilled into his awareness like a countdown he couldn't see. He realized, slowly, terrifyingly, that he was lying still, completely still. No weight in his arms. No response in his legs. His body was there, but it didn't belong to him anymore. Panic surged. He pushed against it with his mind, screaming internally, forcing thoughts to stay sharp. He wasn't asleep. He wasn't drifting. He was awake, fully awake. Severe trauma, a man's voice said nearby. Calm, professional. Neurological response is minimal. We're placing him in a medically induced coma. No, I'm here. A mask pressed over his face. Cold flooded his veins. Darkness tried to drag him under again. But his mind resisted, clinging to the voices, the sounds, the truth. Then another voice entered the room. Soft, familiar. His wife. Is he? Renee asked. Her voice wavered, but not the way he expected. He's stable, but unconscious, the doctor replied. We don't know when or if he'll wake. There was a pause, a long one. Daniel waited for the sob, the gasp, the broken whisper of his name. Instead, Renee exhaled. Relief, not relief mixed with fear, not relief tangled in prayer, just relief. That's good, she said quietly. At least he won't feel anything. The words landed like a blade. Daniel's mind reeled. That wasn't how a wife spoke. That wasn't how love sounded. He tried again to move, to signal, to let her know he was still there. His body betrayed him completely. Footsteps approached his bed. He felt the mattress shift as she leaned closer. Her perfume, familiar, once comforting, now felt suffocating. You always had to be in control, Renee murmured, so softly only someone inches away could hear. Even now, you found a way to disappear. Disappear? Her fingers brushed his hand. Not a squeeze. Not reassurance. Just contact. I gave you everything, she continued. My time. My youth. My patience. And you gave your empire more attention than you ever gave me. Daniel's thoughts raced. This wasn't grief. This was resentment finally unchained. She leaned closer still. If you don't wake up, she whispered, things will finally be quiet. Something inside Daniel hardened. In that moment, he understood the truth more clearly than he ever had while standing, walking, commanding boardrooms. Power hadn't protected him. Money hadn't saved him. Silence had exposed everything. The doctor returned, breaking the moment. Renee straightened instantly, grief snapping back onto her face like a mask. I'll be back tomorrow, she said aloud, loud enough for the room. I love you, love. The word echoed bitterly in Daniel's mind long after she left. Hours passed, or maybe days. Time blurred when all you could do was listen. Nurses spoke around him. Doctors debated charts. Night staff changed. Still, his mind remained sharp, alert, trapped in a body that refused to answer. Then another voice appeared, lower, steadier. Danny, the man said. It's me, Jonah. Daniel felt something close to relief. Jonah Mwansa, his cousin, his closest ally in business, the man who'd helped him build everything from nothing. If anyone would protect him, it was Jonah. They said you can hear familiar voices. Jonah continued. So I'm going to talk, just in case. Yes, talk, please. The company's stable. I've got things handled. No one's making moves without me knowing. A pause. And your wife's been asking a lot of questions. Daniel focused on every word. Legal questions. Medical authority. Access questions. Good. Jonah noticed. I told her we follow your directives, not assumptions. Thank you. Jonah leaned closer. If you're in there, hang on. I've got you. When Jonah left, the room felt colder. Night fell again. Renee returned. This time she wasn't alone. Footsteps, 2 sets. One unfamiliar. Keep your voice down, she said sharply. I am, a man replied. Smooth, confident. But time matters. Daniel strained to listen. The doctors won't do anything drastic without review, Renee said. But that can be influenced. You're his wife, the man replied. That gives you leverage. Once authority is clear, everything else follows. And Jonah? We deal with him later. Daniel's pulse surged. Later how? Renee sighed. I just didn't think it would take this long. There it was. Impatience. Be careful, the man warned. If he wakes. He won't, she cut in. And even if he does, who's going to believe what he heard while unconscious? Daniel answered silently. I will. When they left, rage burned through him, hot and focused. He wanted to open his eyes, sit up, expose everything right now. But instinct held him back. Something deeper than fear. Patience. They thought he was gone. They were revealing themselves freely. Every word was evidence. Every whisper a confession. If he woke too soon, they'd retreat. Rewrite the story. No. He would listen. He would watch. And when he finally spoke, no one would be ready. The next morning began with quiet tension. The kind that pressed down on the room even before anyone spoke. Daniel sensed it immediately. Voices were sharper. Movements quicker. Decisions carried urgency instead of caution. Nurse Alina Kova entered first. Daniel had already memorized her footsteps. Light, precise, never rushed. When she spoke, it was usually gentle, even when she thought he couldn't hear. Good morning, Mr. Mwansa, she said softly while checking his vitals. I'm Alina. I'll be with you again today. She adjusted the monitor, frowned slightly, then leaned closer. Your numbers are steady, she murmured. Very steady. Her tone shifted, not fear, but curiosity. Daniel focused on her voice. Something about her felt different from the others. She didn't speak over him. She spoke to him. Footsteps echoed outside. Renee's heels. Fast. Purposeful. Alina straightened as Renee entered. Grief already painted on her face. How is he today? Renee asked. No significant change, Alina replied calmly. Renee nodded, then glanced at the machines. I'd like to speak with the doctor about adjusting his medication. Alina paused. What adjustment? He's been sedated a long time, Renee said. I don't want him suffering. Daniel felt the lie land heavy in the air. That decision rests with Dr. Tembo, Alina replied. I'll note your concern. Renee's eyes hardened for just a second. Please do. When she left, Alina remained still, staring at the chart longer than necessary. That's strange, she said quietly. Daniel wished he could thank her, warn her, anything. Later that afternoon, Jonah returned. His voice was tighter than before. She's pushing hard, Jonah said near Daniel's bed. Legal authority. Medical authority. She wants everything centralized under her name. Daniel listened intently. I slowed it down, Jonah continued. But she's not hiding it anymore. Something's off. Yes, something was very off. Jonah leaned closer. If you can hear me, you need to wake up soon. Daniel's mind screamed in response. Not yet, because that night Renee came back again. And this time she didn't pretend. She closed the door herself, checked the hall, lowered her voice. You're costing me time, she said flatly, standing beside the bed. Daniel felt every word. Do you know how many people are waiting? She continued. How many deals are frozen because you're lying here? She laughed softly, no humor in it. I stood by you when you were nothing, she said. And when you finally became someone, You shut me out. Her hand tightened around the bed rail. Now you're nothing again. A chill ran through Daniel's thoughts. You won't hear this, she said, leaning closer. But I'm done waiting. She straightened just as another voice entered. Leon Varga. I spoke with the pharmacy, Leon said. There are options. Daniel felt something inside him snap into clarity. Options. What about the nurse? Renee asked. She's observant, Leon replied. But observant people can be redirected. No, Renee said quickly. No mistakes. Leon chuckled. Relax. We're not rushing anything. Just nudging the process. When they left, Daniel felt something new for the first time since the accident. Fear. Not fear of death. Fear of being erased quietly. The following day, Alina returned with a different expression. Focused. Alert. She checked his pupils. Adjusted his fore. Then paused. Dr. Tembo, she said later, voice firm. I noticed a request logged for sedation review that doesn't align with protocol. Daniel listened as closely as he ever had. Who initiated it? The doctor asked. The patient's wife. A pause. And your assessment? I don't recommend changes at this time. Silence. Document everything, Dr. Tembo finally said. That night, Daniel felt his finger twitch. Just once. Barely. But it happened. He concentrated, pushing everything he had into that tiny movement. Again. Nothing. But Alina noticed. Her breath caught. Did you see that? She whispered to herself. Hope flared in Daniel's mind. Fragile but alive. Renee arrived minutes later. What are you doing? She demanded, seeing Alina by the bed. Routine checks, Alina replied. Renee's gaze flicked to Daniel's hand, then back to Alina. You look tense. I'm attentive, Alina said. Renee smiled thinly. So am I. That evening, Jonah returned with news. There's going to be a review, he said quietly. Medical. Legal. They're forcing it. Daniel felt relief and pressure collide. When? Jonah asked the empty room. Soon, Daniel thought. Very soon. But Renee wasn't slowing down. The next morning, Daniel heard raised voices in the hall. You can't block me, Renee snapped. I'm his wife. And I'm his doctor, Dr. Tembo replied. This isn't personal. It is to me. Daniel felt her anger radiate even from behind closed doors. That night, Renee stood over him longer than usual. If you're still in there, she said softly, dangerously calm, you're running out of time. Her hand hovered near his fore. Then footsteps. Alina. Renee stepped back instantly, grief reassembled. Alina checked the fore, eyes sharp. Everything okay? She asked. Yes, Renee replied. For now. When Renee left, Alina leaned in close, her voice barely a breath. Hold on, she whispered. I see you. Daniel clung to those words as darkness pressed in again. Because he knew now. They were preparing to decide his future without him. And if he didn't act soon, there might not be a future left to fight for. If you're still watching, stay with this story because what happens next is where everything turns. And if stories like this keep you hooked, make sure you like and subscribe so you don't miss the ending. Time stopped behaving normally after that. For Daniel, hours stretched like entire days, and days collapsed into flashes of sound and tension. He lived inside conversations now. Every word spoken around him felt heavier, sharper, more deliberate. The room was no longer a place of healing. It was a battlefield disguised as a hospital ward. Renee stopped pretending entirely. She didn't cry anymore. She didn't sit and hold his hand. She stood. She watched. She questioned everything. How long can this go on? She asked one afternoon, her voice clipped. There has to be a limit. There is no deadline on recovery, Dr. Tembo replied. There should be, she snapped. This is unrealistic. Daniel felt the bitterness crawl through her words. She wasn't speaking as a wife. She was speaking as someone blocked from an inheritance. Jonah arrived later that day, his tone low and urgent. She's escalating, he said near Daniel's ear. She filed a temporary request for expanded authority this morning. Daniel's thoughts raced. I contested it, Jonah continued. But they've scheduled a full review. Doctors, lawyers, everything. When? 2 days. 2 days. Daniel focused inward, forcing his mind to sharpen. He tried again to move, to twitch, to respond. His body resisted like it was buried under concrete. That night, Leon returned. You're being watched, Leon told Renee in a low voice. Your nurse friend is too curious. I told you not to rush, Renee replied. I'm not rushing, Leon said. I'm adjusting. Daniel listened, heart pounding. We push for a clinical conclusion, Leon continued. No dramatic decisions. Just acceptance. Acceptance. Renee exhaled slowly. I'm tired. I know, Leon said smoothly. You've waited long enough. When they left, Daniel felt the weight of the truth settle fully. They weren't trying to kill him loudly. They were trying to let him fade. The next morning, Alina came in with a chart tucked tightly against her chest. Her movements were quicker now, purposeful. Mr. Mwansa, she said quietly, leaning close. I need you to keep fighting. Daniel focused everything he had. She adjusted his hand slightly, and this time his finger moved. Clear. Visible. Alina froze. Oh my God, she whispered. Hope exploded in Daniel's chest so fiercely it almost hurt. She checked his pupils again, his vitals, then leaned in even closer. You're here, she said, barely breathing. You're really here. Footsteps approached. Renee. Alina straightened instantly, smoothing her expression. Any changes? Renee asked sharply. No, Alina replied. Too quickly. Renee's eyes narrowed. You're sure? Yes. Renee stepped closer to the bed, staring at Daniel's face. Searching. You look different, she murmured. Daniel held still with everything he had. Renee lingered a moment longer, then turned away. But suspicion had been planted. That afternoon, the pressure exploded. Dr. Tembo's voice was firm. I will not authorize sedation changes. You don't have to, Renee snapped. Once authority shifts, I will. Jonah slammed his hand on the table. This is insane. You're overstepping, Renee fired back. I'm protecting him, Jonah said. Something you stopped doing a long time ago. The room went quiet. Daniel listened, heart racing. You think I wanted this? Renee demanded. You think I enjoyed watching him choose everything else over me? This isn't about you, Jonah said coldly. Renee laughed. It never was. That's the problem. That night, Daniel felt his breath grow shallow. Not from his injuries, but from effort. He pushed again, harder than before. His eyes fluttered. Just briefly, but enough. Alina saw it. She didn't smile. She didn't react outwardly at all. She documented everything. The next morning, the hospital felt different. Heavier. Tighter. Security stood closer. Conversations happened behind doors. The review was imminent. Renee arrived dressed sharply, composed, confident. She looked like someone preparing for victory. Leon stood near the wall, silent. Jonah avoided her gaze. Daniel lay still, listening. This is the last chance, Renee whispered near his bed when no one else was close. Her voice was calm now, resolved. If you're still in there, she said. You should have woken up sooner. Her hand brushed the 4-line again. This time, Alina intervened immediately. Please step back, she said firmly. Renee glared at her. Excuse me? You're agitating the patient. He's unconscious, Renee snapped. Alina met her eyes without blinking. No one knows that for certain. The words landed like a grenade. Renee's face hardened. You're out of line. Maybe, Alina replied, but I'm paying attention. The room went silent. Daniel felt something shift. The following hour was a blur of voices, footsteps, tension. The review convened. Doctors, legal counsel, administrators. Renee spoke confidently, calmly, persuasively. He wouldn't want this prolonged. she said. He believed in dignity. Daniel wanted to scream. Jonah spoke next. His voice was controlled, but anger vibrated beneath it. He believed in truth, Jonah said, and in patience. Dr. Tembo cleared his throat. There have been recent developments. Renee stiffened. Subtle responses, the doctor continued. Not definitive, but noteworthy. Renee turned sharply toward Alina. You didn't tell me that. I reported it appropriately, Alina replied. The room buzzed. Daniel felt the moment approaching like a wave. His heart pounded. His mind screamed at his body. Now. Everything he had left, he pushed forward. His eyelids trembled. Once, twice, and then, they opened. Gasps filled the room. Renee stepped back as if struck. Daniel tried to speak. His throat burned. His voice came out broken, weak, but audible. I heard everything. Silence crashed down. Renee's mouth opened, but no sound came out. Daniel's eyes locked on hers. The truth had finally found its voice. If you're still watching, don't go anywhere. The ending is where justice arrives. Like, comment, and subscribe, because the final moments change everything. The room didn't breathe for several seconds. Daniel's eyes stayed open, unfocused but unmistakably aware. The machines continued their steady rhythm, indifferent to the earthquake that had just split the room in two. Renee was the first to move. She laughed once, sharp and disbelieving. That's not possible, she said quickly. Reflex, patience do that. Daniel swallowed. Pain ripped through his throat as he forced the words out again. You said you were tired of waiting. The sound of her name trembled on his tongue. Renee. Her face drained of color. Jonah stepped forward instinctively. Daniel. Daniel's gaze shifted, slow but deliberate. He focused on Jonah, then on Alina, then back to Renee. I heard, he whispered. All of it. The legal counsel cleared his throat. Mr. Mwansa, can you confirm? Are you conscious? Daniel blinked once, then again. Yes. The word was weak, but it was enough. Renee staggered back a step. This is insane, she said, her voice rising. You're confused. He's confused. He's been sedated. Dr. Tembo shook his head. No. His responses are intentional. Renee turned on Alina. You did this. You filled their heads. Alina didn't flinch. I protected my patient. Security shifted subtly closer. Daniel drew in a shaky breath. Every word felt like lifting a mountain. You asked how long it would take, he said slowly. You said things would be quiet. If I didn't wake up. Renee's mouth opened and closed. You misunderstood. Leon stepped forward. This is getting out of hand. Stop, Jonah snapped. Don't say another word. Daniel's eyes found Leon. You talked about options. That was enough. The room erupted in murmurs. Phones came out. Notes were taken. Dr. Tembo spoke firmly. This meeting is adjourned. Immediately, security stepped in front of Renee. You can't do this, she said, her composure cracking. I'm his wife. Daniel looked at her for a long moment. Not with anger, with something colder. Love, he whispered hoarsely. Doesn't sound like relief at the thought of my death. That broke her. No, she snapped, tears spilling now. You don't get to judge me. You disappeared. You left me alone for years. Jonah shook his head. You had everything. I had nothing, Renee screamed. Nothing but waiting. Daniel closed his eyes briefly, exhaustion flooding him. When I couldn't move, he said quietly. When I couldn't give you anything. That's when you showed me who you were. Security took her by the arm. You'll regret this, she shouted as they let her out. You'll regret choosing them over me. Daniel didn't respond. Leon slipped out without another word. Silence settled again, but this time it felt clean. Hours later, the room was quieter. The tension had drained, replaced by careful hope. Alina stood beside Daniel's bed, tears shining in her eyes. You did it, she said softly. Daniel managed a faint smile. You saw me. Jonah leaned in from the other side. I knew you'd fight. Daniel closed his eyes again, his strength fading fast. But his mind felt lighter than it had in weeks. Recovery was slow, painful, honest. Daniel relearned how to move his fingers, then his hands, then his legs. Every step felt like reclaiming stolen ground. Renee never returned. Legal proceedings moved swiftly. Authority was revoked. Assets were frozen. Names were removed from documents. Daniel didn't attend any of it. He focused on healing. Weeks later, when he finally stood before his company's board again, thinner but unbroken, the room rose to its feet. He raised a hand gently. Sit, he said. His voice was stronger now. They did. I want to be clear, Daniel said. This isn't about revenge. It's about truth. He looked directly at Jonah. Loyalty matters. Then at Alina, seated quietly in the back. Integrity matters even more. After the meeting, Daniel stood alone in his office. The city spread beneath him. He thought about silence, how it had nearly destroyed him, how it had saved him. Later that night, he spoke quietly to no one in particular. When I had money, power, influence, everyone listened, he said. But when I had nothing, no voice, no control, that's when the truth spoke the loudest. He turned toward the window. Pay attention to how people treat you when you can give them nothing. If this story moved you, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and leave a comment with your thoughts. Because stories like this remind us why awareness, patience, and integrity matter. Daniel Mwansa survived not because he was powerful, but because he listened. And when he finally spoke, the truth did the rest.